frame here. Are you ready? Here we go, here, transition. There we go. All right. So I'm pretty excited. This is the first time I've had a guest on Elana, so I'm like super excited. And it's, based on what we do, which is even cooler because normally it's like hush hush, shut up, nobody talk about this. But hey, welcome and go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Elana Scherr. I'm a senior features editor at Car and Driver magazine, and normally I write about cars and shoot photos of cars.
So basically, just kind of to go over the process, I'd gotten in a text slash email from Darren, the creative director over there, about a food shoot, and he said he thought of me because I used to have a blog about meat, and basically, kind of sent these reference images over in terms of a top down on white look, along with some of the other work that you've done in relationship to where the images would correlate with the type, and this is our launch meeting to kind of go over your objective.
Yeah, well, when Darren and I were talking about it, I said, we were talking about like what we needed if we were gonna. To back up a little bit, the front of the magazine has these small stories in it. We call them upfront. Other magazines call them different things, but most magazines have them. They tend to be the kind of easy eating snack type stories, and sometimes they're serious news, sometimes they're tech, and sometimes they're kind of funny or fun things to just get people in the mood to read about cars. And for whatever reason, I've been collecting uh, recipes for car-shaped food and items for making car-shaped food. And I was talking about it with our editor in chief and was like, what if I like put together like a car-shaped banquet? And he thought that was funny, and Darren thought it was funny. And we were talking about, well, what does something like that need to look like? Does it need to be super professional? Does it need to be super sloppy? Like, what's funniest? What will our readers like the best? And we were thinking, oh, well, the food can probably be made a little more amateur, but it should be shot really nicely because we don't want it to look gross, right? Like, we want it to be funny, but also appetizing, if that makes sense. And Darren was like, I know just the guy. I know a guy with a sense of humor.
So cool. So I think that's awesome. It's funny. So I had basically, when I'd heard about this, I hadn't done a lot of research on you, particularly in some of the work that you've done. But how long? Just give me a little background. Like, how long have you been at Car and Driver?
I've been at Car and Driver full time for a year. I've been a contributor for more than 2 years. I've been in automotive journalism for about 12 years, and I've been in the automotive motorcycle motorsports industry for almost 20.
Oh wow, wow. So you did you grow up with motorsports, or how did you fall into it?
No, actually, I didn't even learn how to drive until I was 21. So I came to it really late, but I went all in when I did.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Awesome. So yeah, so when I got the idea, or when they kind of came to me with what we were shooting, Darren had kind of mentioned this particular like layout sample with top down imagery, and the text on the side, and then I was kind of thinking like, well, what would this like top like tabletop look like? So there's two things. So I kind of started writing down like keywords that might work for this shoot. Like Darren had mentioned the blue shop rags, using tools. Um, uh, Paper towels, wrenches, like an old like coffee mug with like some type of funny car slogan on the side of it or something like that with coffee in it. And maybe the guy's got like a piston that he stirs his drink with. I don't know. Uh, and then there was kind of like the composition of like how we could do the top down stuff in terms of the way I would think that we would do it is because we'd be able to focus on uh, each dish individually. And so what we do is kind of what I'd like to do is I'll do a test first at the angle to just kind of get the framing right and see how many dishes we could fit at what distance from the table that we're shooting at. And then I figured we'd be able to focus on one dish at a time and where you want it placed.
Mhm.
That way, I noticed you had kind of sent me like some samples. I'm assuming you're planning on pre-making some of this stuff before you actually, or before we do the shoot.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably have to. I figured I'd make a bunch of stuff the day, most of it really probably the day before in case things go poorly, which is definitely a possibility. Some things I think are going to be difficult. Like I've got this car shaped pasta, and
Oh, that's so cool.
that we can just make, however far before, and I figured we could just do like butter and parsley on that so that, you can see the shapes, and that shouldn't, that should be something that kind of stays looking the same
Cool.
for a while. I want to try, I don't know that I can guarantee that it'll work, but I want to try making a car shaped meatloaf in this pan. And that one could be challenging because meatloaf is not known for its tidiness necessarily.
That's cool though. So was
Yeah,
that there was some you sent me some cookies, right?
yeah. I've got some cookie cutters,
Cool.
make sugar cookies and decorate them that I can do, beforehand.
Okay, cool.
And then there are some that I don't have samples of that are more like constructions of food to look like cars, right? Like
Okay.
you could imagine making sort of like an open wheel race car out of a hot dog, like kind
Oh,
of a
that's so cool.
kind of thing. So there's some stuff like that. I'd wanted to have a mix of savory and sweet. It felt like it wasn't as interesting or as funny if it was just cookies and cakes, right? Because you're kind of used to those being in the shape
Right.
of something else. All of this started because I bought a waffle maker that makes car and truck shaped waffles.
That's so
So
cool.
so we can use that one too, and maybe like, I don't know, fill the little truck beds with syrup or something. And that's probably another one that we would do probably at the day of the shoot, or because I think that those will probably shrink. It's hard to know exactly how
Right.
things will look, but I feel like waffles and pasta are probably day of. Cookies, meatloaf, I can probably do the night before because it'll be better if it's cold. It'll stay together better. Um, but I'll take any advice you have too, because like I said, I know a lot about shooting cars. I do not know very much about shooting food.
So the way I would so basically we're kind of like are any of these the first thing I would ask is are any of these meant to be seen in profile? Probably like the meatloaf, right? Or
Meatloaf, possibly. I mean, it would look like this from the top down. It would look like that from a profile. It's probably just going to look like a chunk of meat anyway. I was thinking of like maybe I can use like half onions for the wheels, like on the outside after it's cooked,
right,
and
right.
like maybe some little carrots or something here on the headlights to kind of give it a car shape and a little more texture.
Because we could do like the like a car shape. Whoops. Like a car shaped. Hold on. We could do in order to be able to see it properly. We could do here. I'm just use shapes. We could have like part of the car. Hold on. Let me put this here. Say this is the car. This is a top down view of the car shape that you had, and then show like a plate. Circle. So you have like your plate of food, and then we show it sideways. Like you
Mhm.
would then have it sliced on there, and you'd be able to see a profile of it. So you'd have the top
Yeah,
down shape, and then the meatloaf cut out like three slices with then the profile or the side profile of what the car shape would be in the shot.
yeah, that's clever. Like, because then you get kind of a safety too. If it doesn't work once you cut it, at
Right.
least top down one.
Yeah, so we'll do the top down one, and then we'll do the cut version, and we
Mhm.
don't even, and you don't even have to make two. We could just take that one, and then
Yeah.
yeah. And another thing is like, and if the slices start to look funky or fall apart, we can always overlay the outside edge over that particular cut version, and then I can just duplicate those to look like more slices if we need.
Smart.
So less is more, right?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
fair.
and I will, I have it on my notes to I'll make a test one tomorrow night, to make sure that it works at all. Cause it might not, I don't know. I was trying to look it up. I was like, are there any meatloaf, car shaped meatloafs? And the only like molded, first of all, I do not recommend don't look up molded meatloaf because you will get moldy meatloaf. It's real gross. But also like shaped meatloaf gets you a lot of like, what do they call it? King's hand, the like hand shaped
Oh,
meatloaf.
oh really?
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It's so funny. I mean, my mom. I grew up like Croatian family, so they cooked stuff all the time, and meatloaf was a thing, and it was just never my thing. I think probably for the same reasons that you're describing. But
Lax marketing because it's a gross name and it always kind of looks bad, but it's actually delicious.
right, right. You say bread loaf.
Yeah, right?
Cozy meatloaf.
Gross.
I don't know that I'm up for hugs.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe we can come up with a better name for it once we finish this.
And so, are these gonna have like car pun names into the titles?
I hope so. I mean, a lot of it depends on my wit at the day of writing, but yeah, well, they're definitely each going to have like some sort of like review aspect. So
Cool.
as much as possible, I want to make things that we could try, make them edible if I can, and then probably some reference to where or how people could make them themselves.
Right. So I'm just gonna do. I'm just trying to figure out. So there's one item. Whoops. And then there's the second one. I'm just trying to figure out in terms of. What? Let me just do these with objects. That way, it's a little bit easier. I already have objects on this layout. I'm gonna go to solid up here. So basically, looking at like 7 objects. So I got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Nut
6,
wants to go outside while
7.
making dots.
So what we can do is, I would imagine we'd kind of figure out the layout for the seven particular items that we'd have. Because the other thing is, like I'd kind of now I'd imagine we wouldn't necessarily. Let me finish this one idea first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have 7. I'll move this that way. So we have our 7 objects here. We'd have featured on our page. Now, Darren had mentioned to me this is, I texted him for the dimensions. This is going to be a double page spread, correct?
I think it's single,
Single?
unfortunately.
Okay. Oh, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
So yeah, I'll have him find out. I'll get the dimensions from him on what they are, and then kind of make a placeholder. But I figured at the actual shoot, we'll just worry about getting all the pieces. We'll probably have to
Mhm.
light it. That way, we have the whole day to get the stuff that we want to shoot, and the lighting's consistent between here and uh, shooting the background that we would
Yeah.
put the items on. I believe so. Yeah, and then we also don't have to worry about the background when we're actually shooting and getting stuff all over the place and things like that. So what I was thinking was I would kind of shoot some plates and objects in a composition with, and you can send me photos as you're making this stuff. Send me
Yeah.
top down images of the items, and then I can pre-comp them together. That way we know what we're shooting where, and you like the layout, and know which one you want, what size, and in what place, uh,
Yeah.
like that. So I will get on that in the meantime. Probably just start, kind of pre-putting plates together,
Mhm.
and then assigning which dishes go where, and I'll Photoshop those pieces in there, and then you have an idea of what that's going to look like. For the background. I have one of these things. I have like an old drill, but it's a matter of I figured I'd reach out to you and figure out, do you want like this type of top, or where it's, because I actually have a shelf that looks like this in my workshop in the house that I currently live in, or do you want something clean because it's food, and we could also do something like this, but put like I have here put like a red and white striped cloth underneath where the food is, like in the middle, and then put like wrenches and whatever else, the oh, actually, Darren had mentioned the blue, using the blue paper towel or the blue cloths as the as like the napkin, I guess, if you will.
Well, so I have like my house is like we have a huge shop. So any textures that you want to add to the collection, you
Ooh,
can certainly
cool.
do while you're here, including, like we could also maybe look at maybe we just want to use kind of like a patinaed painted like hood look or something. I
Ooh,
do want it to look appetizing in the end, and that I mean, it could on a workshop bench, but I definitely I don't want it to look too greasy for two reasons. One, I don't want people to be grossed out, and two, Car and Driver isn't Hot Rod Magazine, right? Like it's not
right.
quite so much about people wrenching as it is about kind of nerding out on cars in like a like more of a lifestyle way maybe.
Right.
So I'd like it to be clean enough that it will appeal to people who are not wrenching,
Right.
and it doesn't seem like it's a spread that we like took from like a 1960s hot rod magazine.
Right.
um,
So not as dirty and grimy, more clean. But you had mentioned something about a car, like a car hood, or
yeah, I mean, I can send you pictures at the end of we've got 16 cars here,
well,
in like various stages of originality and painted and not painted and that kind of thing. So
that's
if
cool.
if there's a texture that you want, we can shoot any one of those cars if you think that it might make a good background, like maybe
Absolutely.
a little more subtle than the workbench, but still like have an automotive feel to it.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely open to this. I think that's way cooler because then it's not expected, right?
Yeah, we can see you can make that decision here because they're all here. I don't have to do anything to make it possible.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. So and then what about schedule wise? What did you have in mind for? Darren had also mentioned about shooting some video of some of the
Well, if
process.
you're willing to do a 2-day thing, and
Absolutely.
if and if it works for some of your stuff too, you are welcome to come here Thursday and we could do some cooking together. The only like the video that I wanted to maybe get was for our social team to use, and maybe like so I was thinking like I'm setting up a top down like hands one for maybe some of the items, and
Absolutely.
not like a full step by step, but like the silly kind of like TikTok-y style ones where it's
Totally.
just quick and visually appealing. So it would be awesome to have some assistance for that, but it's not a major priority. But then if it's useful to you, if you want to stream some of it, or if you think it's fun to shoot some of it, I'm
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think all that stuff's set up. Like what we could do is we could do. I could do. I have an older iPhone that I can use as a secondary camera to plug in to a laptop to be able to stream from. Like kind of like the entire setup of what we're doing, right? And
yeah,
then
sure.
have like an overhead camera that's secondary to use, which is basically I could use the one that I'm streaming from now to
Mhm.
kind of show like the tabletop of the whole thing, and then we can do like a. Then you have like all the scenes that were like, and then another one showing like the screen of what I'm shooting as we're shooting it type thing. So that way it's all kind of intertwined. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll make a day of it. I think it could totally be fun, and people can
Yeah.
come by and ask questions or whatever. Like I feel it's funny. All the input we're getting here is pretty cool in terms
Is
of yeah.
it?
Uh,
It's not just people saying like, "Boy, that's a dumb idea, Alana."
no, they love the tabletop shiny car. Oh, you should get commission. People are actually resubscribing to Car and Driver because they miss it.
Oh, Fantastic.
Yeah.
Please do, guys. I have a column. Send letters. Tell them you like it. It's really
So
hard. We want to make it fun.
totally, I think that's so cool. So yeah, so we'll ditch this idea and keep it super clean. I totally get what you're saying in terms of not gearheads, but more or less, you know, everybody who uses automobiles. I think, like what you were
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. I want it to be um, real open because what I've discovered in my own nerdy life, which is, as someone who buys car shaped cookie cutters before this story, if I post about it, all the people who are, on my Instagram are like, that's really cool. Where do you get that? Like, I want to buy some cookie cutters or I want to make car shaped waffles. So I was like, this is, even though it's silly, I think it is fun for people and it's something you can do with your kids or it's, I mean, I don't have kids. I did it with my husband and I made car shaped waffles on Sunday mornings. So it's like, and it was really funny. Like we enjoyed it. So I think that it's kind of just one of those things where you can be like, I like cars and this is a way of making my kids like cars. Or, if I make my wife or husband cookies, they're going to like cars as long as they're cookies.
Oh,
So,
totally. And I think that's the coolest thing about this is that everybody cooks, right? I mean, at some point, everybody's made foods for themselves, so this is relatable to everybody. And I feel like most people drive cars, so this is a great way to kind of bring the two together. You know, plus, oh, I didn't tell you. So I had a kid. Well, I mean, I'd mentioned, we talked on the phone earlier about that I had a kid on Wednesday. Her name's Chevelle.
no, really?
Yeah, Chevelle Anna Rice, and her initials are Carr. So just to give you an idea, it was actually complete coincidence. But yes, her name is Chevelle.
Is she named
Nickname,
after the car, or is that a name that meant something to you guys otherwise?
we found the name. It's funny. We were originally going to call her Wesley, and we didn't love the name because every time we thought of the name, we couldn't. Every time we tried to think of her, we couldn't think of the name. And then we're like, all right, we're just going to sit down. We went through like 500 names, and my wife said Chevelle. We wanted something with like a ring to it because our
Yeah.
other daughter's name's Huxley. So we want
Hmm.
my last name's Rice, so you really can't do anything with your name unless you're opening a restaurant. So we
Right.
wanted to give them first names that they could use as brands because we're come from a family of entrepreneurs. Figured they'd have names that they could use as for products themselves. And then my wife had said Chevelle, and I was like, I think that's pretty much it. And then and I look back, I'm like, why do I like it so much? And I was like, oh, Chevy Chevelle. Well, there's the thing. So that had kind of happened, and then it just kind of went on from there. And then yeah, and then it just stuck.
That's very funny. I like it a lot. Well, you will have to show me some baby pictures.
You got it. You will see. You will see.
We'll we'll spend some time cooking. So yeah, I mean, I have both Thursday and Friday marked off.
Cool.
So basically, however long we need to go, however long you think we need.
Totally. And what I'll do is I'll set up like a test shoot. What do you have for dishes in terms of?
Um, I have 3 or 4 sets. I'll take pictures and send to you. They're all patterned. I don't have anything that's totally plain. But I'm sure we could just buy some plain colored ones if we need them, or maybe one of these would work.
Yeah, I have a bunch of white stuff. I used to from my old food blogging days. I have some not necessarily stylized, but different like presentation platters that are also in white that I can bring, and I'll take pictures and send those to you with the dimensions as well, so you know how big they are. And then also because we're shooting each thing individually, it's we can also scale things a little bit if we need to in order to be able to fit everything on the same page and whatnot. So because I know sometimes people bake things and they all come in different shapes and sizes, and
Yeah, there,
so
that is good. And then if we need to like fill any space, I have like some like gummy gummy cars and
cool.
chocolate cars and that kind of stuff. So they can kind of fill in if there's like a blank space or a weird corner that needs some action.
Okay, cool, awesome. I mean, this all sounds great. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll do test it up. Probably what's today? Monday. Probably tomorrow. Um, uh, with some arrangements and stuff, and then I'll kind of pre-lay out everything with uh, different versions of I'll have all the plates on Photoshop layers so I can add the stuff you're shooting in as you shoot it, and then I'll send them back to you as screenshots, and you can say yes or no or move this here or whatever. and then we can go from there. That way, when we do what we do on Thursday and Friday, it really just will be plug and play for the layout. We don't have to. That way, nothing is missing, and we have everything that we need. I'm like super OCD about getting everything we need beforehand, so the shoot is then so much fun, and we can just enjoy ourselves rather than be like, "There's
Well,
6 and not 7," you know.
yeah. Okay. I will keep you updated on my practice runs this week,
Okay.
and I'll see how it goes. Hopefully, we'll be much better at making cookies at least by the end of the week.
Awesome. I'm so looking forward to this. This is like my two favorite things, three, 4, or 5 favorite things in one. So
Me too.
thanks.
I'm excited about it too. So thanks
Awesome.
for
And thanks again for doing this. I'm so grateful. I appreciate it.